right, friends, let's get ready to settle in. And so wherever you are, just let yourself get comfortable. Let you just ground into your seat. Allow your eyes to close if that feels right. Allow your breath to lengthen just a little bit. And just really arrive into that space that you've chosen. Let the body become still. Let the breath elongate just a little bit. And then see if the emotions and the senses and the mind can follow. Just really ushering you into stillness. And as you do that, just check in and just notice what's going on with you. Notice if things just feel quiet and steady, or if they feel not so quiet and not so steady. Notice what's taking up your attention, your focus. And just let yourself bring all of that into this next moment as you take a deep breath in. Just fully embracing all the parts. And then exhale, let it go. And then again, breathing in. Embracing everything you've shown up with mentally, emotionally, physically. Exhale, release the breath. One more time together, breathing in and breathing out. And again, just really allowing yourself to settle a little more. You've chosen this physical spot to be. Let it support you across these few minutes that we have together. And the foundation of our meditation time today comes from Yoga Sutra, the 4th chapter and the 7th verse. And there's this beautiful line that gives me such hope. And it says, "The yogi's actions are neither black nor white." And there's a translation that says, "The yogi's actions are neither good nor bad." And I think, what a point in your journey to get to, where you realize that right action is just right action. And there's not this one fork going to the side of good and one fork going to the side of bad. And we keep navigating between the two. But somewhere along this spiritual journey in this path, there is this way of being where, as the sutras say, the yogi's actions are neither good nor bad. They just are. And what a beautiful sense of equanimity that you must arrive at to be able to live that way. And so it's one of those sutras that to me feels a bit elusive, that we'll have to live for a very long time to even catch a glimpse of that in our lives, because we do have this division again and again of the good and the bad and the right and the wrong and the positive and the negative. It seems like the more we try not to do that, the more strongly the world divides things into this or that. And then as I started to study a few more translations, I wanted to know, how can we apply this to our lives now? Because most of us are not yet to the point where we live with just equanimity, where our actions are neither good nor bad, they just are. Where our thoughts are neither right or wrong, they just are. And so I have to believe that there's a progression, that we don't just stay on this divided path of duality and then all of a sudden we're not there. I have to believe, as I'm sure you will as well, that along this path things get a little clearer. The divisions become fewer. These dualities that feel so strong in our lives right now become less strong. And there's this beautiful example, this story that a wise teacher, Satchidananda is his name, his translation of this one particular line of the Yoga Sutras, he says, think about a knife. A knife's job, its whole existence of being, is to cut. So just imagine all the knives in your kitchens. Maybe you have knives in your garage. And no matter what place it has in your home, we know that the role of the knife is to cut. It just is. But then Satchidananda gives us this idea that that same tool that just is a tool to cut, when it cuts the apple or the steak and you pick up the piece to eat it, somewhere in your mind you're assigning this idea that it's good. How that knife was used is good. It cut the apple into pieces so that we can eat it. It cut the steak into bite-sized pieces so that you can enjoy it. But then, that same tool, that same knife, when it cuts your hand, all of a sudden it's not good. It's bad. It's the same knife. It serves the same purpose. But something in our rational thinking mind has assigned meaning to how it cuts. If it cuts in this circumstance, it's good. We enjoy it. If it cuts in this way, it's bad because it causes us pain. But at the end of the day, it's still just the knife. It just is. And he gives us that example of a really tangible way for us to start applying this in our lives. How often do we go through our day dividing things into one side or the other? Someone acts a certain way. We approve of the act or we disapprove of the act. Someone says something. We like what they say, or we don't like what they say. Something happens in our life, some event. We call it good, or we call it bad. And so just think about each of us, how many times in a day, without even realizing that we're doing it, we're assigning meaning to things. We're labeling it. We're perpetuating this idea of duality. But yoga was never intended for us to live from a place of duality. In fact, we're taught in all these sutras, all these spiritual texts about yoga, about meditation, about mindful practices and asana and breath. We're taught that they're all about union, oneness. Union of your mind, body, and your spirit. Oneness within humanity. But it's we, as the human beings with the rational thinking minds, that have started to divide things into this or that. What we like and what we don't. What brings us pleasure, what brings us pain. But like the knife, these things just are. We've assigned the labels. We've perpetuated the division. And again, often without even realizing we've done it. And so as I read more and just wanted more clarity, I kept thinking, so how do we shift? Some of these ways of being and thinking are so deeply embedded in our thoughts. And so I just kind of watched myself over the last couple of days. I wanted just to study and see, as these things come in, can I truly just look at them and say, and so it is. Now, that doesn't mean I don't feel, and that doesn't mean that I don't have emotions. But what I started to notice the last couple of days, as I've navigated quite a few things in my own personal life, that the things that used to cause really big reactions from me, that I would assign judgment of that is good or that is not. In the last couple of days, I was doing that fewer and fewer times. And I encountered some tough situations. And I remember saying to my husband just yesterday, driving home from the studio, I remember saying, And so it is. And he didn't really realize what I was saying, but I heard myself say the words, and I thought, this is what Satchidananda is talking about. I'm becoming more aware. And I think that's our next step toward this sutra of the yogi's actions are neither black nor white. They are neither good nor bad, neither right nor wrong. They come from a place of equanimity, of oneness, of evenness. And while I still believe I have many, many years of practicing and moving in that direction, I learned about myself the last couple of days that I want to share with you. It starts with our awareness. We can read the sutras, we can study the texts, we can do the practices, but we've got to start to watch ourselves. Watch that thinking mind and see, when does it just kick in thinking that it knows best? And can we begin to slow that process down? Can we begin to be really aware, watch ourselves, watch the things come into our lives, watch how we react, listen to the labels that we assign, and then start to notice when those things become less. And so I want to use my own personal mantra of last night. I want to use that to guide us into some moments of quiet here. And maybe if this mantra holds some meaning for you as we sit together, you can take it with you in the days to come and just notice. Notice how you respond to things, how you assign the labels, the categories, the divisions, or how you don't. And so we're going to just breathe a few times here together. I'm going to offer you the words of, and so it is. We'll watch that breath come in. We won't assign any kind of judgment to it. We'll just watch it. And as we breathe out, I will offer to you, and so it is. And then the next breath will come in. We'll notice where it's originating from, how full it feels or not. We won't assign judgment. We'll just notice it. And on the exhale again, and so it is. And then we'll find our steady way into this quiet with that mantra just kind of holding space. And just watch yourself across these couple of minutes as we just sit. Watch how the thinking mind tries to just step up, take control, tell us what it thinks that we need to know. And then begin to notice how maybe you could choose differently. So let's take a deep breath in together. Exhale out. And so it is. Breathing in. And breathing out. And so it is. And inhale. And exhale. And so it is. And then continue to breathe here. Find your rhythm. And let me just offer these words just a few more times. And then we'll settle into quiet. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Begin to notice that next breath coming in. Just watch it. And then watch it go out. And so it is. And breathing in. And so it is. And as we get ready to close our practice and take these teachings into our lived experience, I want to make sure we all realize that this idea of equanimity, this idea of living from the middle, this and so it is way of being, it's not the same as being indifferent. It's not dissociating from what's going on. It's not burying your head in the sand. It is noticing what's happening around you, feeling what you need to feel in the moment, and allowing the equanimity, the stillness within you, to draw you back in and not let those things push you toward these dualities that we've lived with for far too long. Our world desperately needs union. Our families, our communities desperately need harmony. Maybe we could be the start of this beginning spark of lessening our reliance upon our pattern ways of being and our go-tos as they relate to these dualities. And so in the coming days, just notice this about yourself without judgment. When something happens, notice if you have this automatic response of assigning it as good or bad or positive or negative or right or wrong. And then just make a note of that. And then the next time, make another note. Because it's through the awareness that we begin to shift. And so as you go through your day, hold on to these words. I offer them to you. It was such a blessing yesterday as I said them out loud, and I thought, this is one tiny step toward what Yoga Sutra 4.7 is talking about. And so it is. Namaste.